What's up, guys? Welcome back to CardSpot. My name is Ethan, and today we're doing something that we haven't done before. Something a little bit different. As you probably already know, the new ban list for the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG has just come out. So I'm going to give you my totally unqualified opinion on everything that has just moved places on the ban list. There's some really interesting changes, so let's get right on into it. Okay, so we'll start off with the newly banned cards, then we'll go to the newly limited, semi-limited, unlimited, and we'll work our way down the list. So starting off with the first banned card, Fairy Tale Snow. Now you might be thinking, didn't this card just come back in February? Yes, yes it did. And it's actually been seeing a lot of play recently. 3 out of the 4 top decks in YCS Niagara at the start of this month. We're playing Fairy Tale Snow. It's really popular, particularly in Tearlament decks. So it obviously came back in February as a bit of a test. Konami were just going to see how it went. Obviously, being in Tearlament kind of helped give them a boost a little bit, but they've decided no, it's actually too good. And it is, especially in combination with cards like Topologic Zerobros, as we saw with the Tearlament deck at the European Champs, I think it was. When you banish a whole lot of cards, that monster gets really strong. So I can see why they've wanted to do this. Last format, it was okay. And then this format with Tear coming out has just kind of shot its usage through the roof. So it did kind of need to go again. It was really strong. Bring it back. It's a free body. It's a free Book of Moon for banishing cards from your graveyard. I guess if you really needed to, you can also banish them from your hand or field. But the majority of the time, it's just, particularly in Tearlament, all those milled spell cards that they're never going to be able to get back, banish them all, have a free body, and a Book of Moon. Yeah, it's pretty good. It is basically an indirect hit to Tearlament, but hey, they kind of need it given that Magnificent Mavens is 2 months away, and that's going to give them all those Ishizu cards, which is absolutely going to break them. Next up, we've got RONINTOADIN. Who saw this coming? So RONINTOADIN has been banned. Obviously, it is an indirect hit to Sprite without hitting any of those Sprite cards. It kind of hurts their little frog engine and getting out totally. Although, it's kind of being swapped out for a different Toad, but it is just a free body off the swap frog when they have it in graveyard, so they can just banish the swap frog, special the RONINTOADIN, and go into shenanigans. It's generally only run in 1 copy anyway, so there's no point in limiting or semi-limiting it. It just kind of had to get banned if they wanted to do anything to that frog engine. You could have looked at maybe semi-limiting Swap Frog, but instead they've just gone, nah, let's just straight up ban RONINTOADIN. But as I said, there's another Toad on the horizon in the limited card, so we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, this one is pretty big, and this is very controversial. It's been talked about for a long time. Crystron Hulk Fibrax. So, as everyone knows, there is a raft of cards that got banned just so Hulk could exist, and now it is finally gone. It is a really strong Link monster. It's generic, it's played in some Sprite and Tier builds, but along with Punk, Sword Soul, road decks like zombies and things, it is absolutely everywhere. At this point, it does kind of feel like more of a hit to road decks than like your main 2 Sprite or Tier decks, since they don't really need it. Whereas things like Punk, things like zombies, it's kind of a big playmaker for them. So it does kind of feel like they're being a little bit mean to rogue decks here, but I can understand wanting to get rid of it to match up with the OCG and Master Duel ban lists that both have it banned. And, as you'll see later on the list, it allows us to bring back some of those cards that were preemptively banned for Hulk's sins. So we'll talk about those a little bit later on. Next up, we have a little bit of an odd one, in my opinion. I don't really think it's ban-worthy. It's Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. So this has been played predominantly in Dragon Link and Punk. So it's a big hit for those guys, but I didn't really think it's that ban-worthy. It's obviously a good card, but it's not amazing. Is it ban-worthy? I mean, they only play 1 anyway, so again, not worth limiting or anything like that. But yeah, it facilitates loading up your grave, I guess, and getting a nice card added to your hand. Like, it is good, But is it ban worthy? Are those decks good enough to really be hitting them when they're trying to compete with Sprite and Tier, which we all know are top of the pops right now? So I'm kind of scratching my head at this one going, I don't know if it's really there. It's kind of out of the blue as far as I can tell. Finally, our last banned card. So there has been 5 banned cards on this list, and the final one is Red Reboot, a card that was already limited to 1. And it's a trap card as well, but it has been very, very popular lately as a side deck card in particular. It was in 5 of the top 8 side decks in YCS Niagara. I'm using that because that was the most recent premiere event. But it's not a card that I've really been hearing people want banned. Obviously things like Mystic Mine, people talk about wanting to have banned very often, but Red Reboot, I haven't really heard about anyone wanting it banned. But it does have some interesting characteristics, being that it's basically the only one that I'm aware of anyway, spell speed 3 hand trap. You pay half your life points, at least. So maybe hitting Metaverse in the Mystic Mind deck is just too good. Okay, so that's it for the banned cards. 5 new cards to add to the banned list, and 5 new cards I can add to my banned card collection. But coming back, we have a few cards that were limited as well. The first one being Blackwing Steam the Cloak. So I wasn't around when this card was seeing play. It's been banned the whole time that I've been back into playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But as I understand it, it was a card that was banned to pay for Hulk Sins because it is a tuner, and when it grows to the grave, it brings a token, so it's a kind of a free body, effectively, of Hulk. I can see this having a bit of potential in tier. Like one situation that springs to mind that I encountered on the weekend at locals. If you've got 3 monsters on the field, 2 Darks and a Rhino Heart, and you've got the Blackwing Steam in Graveyard, you could tribute the Rhino Heart, bring the Blackwing back, and then make Curious, and then you've got a free token from your Blackwing as well, which allows you to, link into even higher monsters. So I could see it having some application there. A lot of these cards that came back get effects when they leave the field or go to the graveyard, so they have some relevance and some synergy with tier elements. So it could be interesting to see if we see like synchro tier builds come out of this. Only time will tell, but it'll be something that I'll be testing in tier for sure. There's also more Blackwing support coming out in Darkwing Blast, the next core booster set, which comes out in October. So Steam coming back could be potentially to help that as well, just to give Blackwings a little boost. But I haven't seen Blackwings play in about 10 years, so I don't know what their builds are looking like now, whether they would actually even play Steam. But again, time will tell to see what those builds look like. Although, I don't know that the Blackwing support is even that good, so if you're a Blackwing player, I'm sorry. So this next one is probably the most surprising on the list. They've brought back, after about probably 15, 16-ish years, I'm not sure exactly, Cyberjar is back. Cyberjar is back at 1. Now, if you have no idea why this card was banned, go play Empty Jar in Go format. It is a facilitator of an FTK/OTK being able to deck out your opponent. So this is really quite an interesting card to see coming back. It is a flip effect, so it's obviously very slow for today's metagame, but it is still just a really nice one-off if you do get it off. You could argue, though, that Morphing Jar is as well, and doesn't see any play anymore, so we'll have to wait to see if Cyberjar is actually going to be used. I could see it being used in like a Mystic Mine deck where they don't care about their monsters being destroyed, they just want to get to Mystic Mine as quickly as possible. So it could just be a one-off monster that they slap down. If the opponent flips it or attacks into it or whatever, then they just get to add all those spell cards from their deck to their hand. So it could maybe see something there, but I don't expect it to really see too much play. Next up, another card that is coming back now that Hulk is gone, Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion. Unfortunately, this was another card that I wasn't playing when it was unbanned, so I'm not exactly sure what its interactions were with the decks of the time. But I can see it being utilized in basically any deck that utilizes some kind of mill or hand to grave card effect. Basically because when it gets sent to grave, it just brings a token up. It's just a free body that you can link off and have a fun time with. So, if you're playing tier and you mill this, then hey, you get a nice body on the field that you might be able to link and then climb into Curious or whatever. So yeah, it's okay. A game will be something that I'll be testing in tier as well. This and Steam, I think, just have some interesting options available. Being tuners as well, as I said, maybe a synchro build of tier could be a thing. So this next card that's just been limited, I hinted at before when we were talking about RONINTOADIN, it is Substitoad. So we've swapped our toads around. We've lost RONINTOADIN, but we've gained Substitoad. So this is another card that's been banned for a very long time, though not quite as long as Cyberjar. Substitoad has been banned, I think, since 2010, so about 12 or so years. So, I guess with removing RONINTOADIN, they wanted to give the Frog Engine a little something and decide to see with Substitoad what can happen. I'm unsure if this will be played in Sprite. It's only a level 1, so it doesn't really facilitate itself with their level 2 plays that well, but can still facilitate some Swap Frog plays. So I'd expect it to be tested at least, but time will tell to see if it's actually that useful for them. Next up, the next unbanned card. So we're seeing a lot of cards being unbanned on this list, which actually I'm really all for. I want to see cards coming back and shaking up the game. This one is Spellbook of Judgment. So if you weren't around when this card got banned, let me tell you, this was about 9 years ago that this card got banned, and for good reason. It is absolutely crazy. As many spell cards as you activate in a turn, you can add that many spell cards from your deck to your hand, and then special summon a spellcaster monster whose level is less than or equal to the number of cards you added. It is just insane. Now, we've seen this card come back in the OCG, and hasn't really made too many waves, so I think Konami's thinking it's relatively safe to bring back in the TCG just to see what happens. I could see this kind of being played in maybe like a Runic deck or a Mystic Mind deck, something like that that's just going to go hard on the spell cards, put a Spellbook engine in there with 3 Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, 3 Spellbook Secrets, and just go for gold kind of thing. Maybe a Jalgan or something in there as well so that you can't special summon, that kind of stuff. But again, at only 1 copy, I don't think it's going to be too much of a game changer, but we'll have to wait and see, as with all of this stuff. And our final limit of this list is a card that was not banned. It was actually at 3, and it's Appointer of the Red Lotus. They've decided that seeing your opponent's hand and ripping a card out of it is too strong. Trap dust shoot. So, Appointer of the Red Lotus had to go to 1. I don't think this card actually deserved going to 1. It was seeing a lot of play at the start of last format, but towards the end it had kind of tapered off and was actually not in a whole lot of side decks. But apparently, no, that's not good enough. It still needs to go to 1. So if you're out there and you're still looking to buy Appointer of the Red Lotus, I've got a few to hook you up with. From all those OTS packs that we opened for our 250 sub special. But yeah, this was one that I didn't really see coming, and I don't think a lot of people saw coming, but it is what it is. So, semi-limited, no cards were added to the semi-limited list, so that's fine. So let's keep on marching to unlimited. So unlimited, there's not going to be so much to talk about here. It's a lot of cards that were semi'd and have now just gone to 3 because they had no impact on the game whatsoever. The first one being Dynamite Knight, the True Draco Slayer. So this was semi-limited in May. Didn't do anything all format in terms of Premier Event tops, so it makes sense that it goes back to 3. It's nice for True Dracos, but Masterpiece would be nicer. Next up is Cyber Angel BENTEN. This was also semi-limited in May from limited, so it's working its way down the list. I think Drytron last format had some regional tops, but other than that, it hasn't done a whole lot either, so it kind of makes sense them getting back BENTEN. It's reasonably safe for it to come back, I think, in this stage. And obviously nice for Drytron, but I think Ava would be nicer. Next, unlimited, is Shooting Riser Dragon. So this is the final Hulk casualty on this list. So it was banned, or was limited, just because it was so easy to bring off Hulk, and then you could go into Baron. Obviously, it's quite a high level to start with. So It's now you've got to make it in your turn, try and keep it around to last till your opponent's turn, and then synchro with it, unless, I guess you could make Formula Synchron, and then synchro into Riser on your opponent's turn, but then you've got to keep your Formula Synchron around. Again, you've actually got to keep things around where you can't just go, Hulk, boom, bring out, Shooting Riser, synchro, happy days. So, yeah, it's definitely a different kettle of fish with Hulk gone. Another semi-limited card, Fusion Destiny. There's a lot of cards from this list that are coming back because others got banned. So Verte was banned back in May. Fusion Destiny was put to 2 in February. But with Verte banned, Fusion Destiny is no longer a problem. It's not really seeing any play outside of hero decks. So giving them 3 is just a nice little boost to hero decks. Other decks can play it, but then they have to hard draw into it. It's not just make Verte, dump Fusion Destiny, and go for gold. So I think for hero decks, this is a nice little boost. And yeah, I doubt that we'll see too many other decks playing it. The next unlimited card is Nadir Servant. So this is a nice boost to Dogmatica, which hasn't really done a lot for a long time. When's the last time you saw a Dogmatica deck top? I mean, there was Dogmatica Shadol like last year. But really, I haven't seen Dogmatica around for a little while, so it's nice to see them getting a little boost, and it's probably not going to change the game for them too much. I'm just kind of sad because I just sold 4 Elder Entity Entis, which is probably going to start seeing a little bit of play if Dogmatica start to pop up again. So that's kind of sad. I still have 1 left though, so I'm keeping that for myself. The next unlimited card is Trickstar Light Stage. So this went from limited to semi-limited in May and did nothing. So going to 3 now, yeah, kind of makes a lot of sense. It's nice for Trickstar, and that's about it. Again, I wasn't really around for the reason why this card was limited. This happened before I was starting to play again. If there's an amazing Trickstar combo, then please tell me, because I'm unaware. But yeah, it really didn't see a lot of play in any kind of Premier events, or topping any Premier events last format. So I doubt 3 this format is going to make a huge difference. Again, I'm always prepared to eat my words on any of this, but this is just my totally unqualified opinion on what I can see in the future. And finally, the last card moving on the list is Wall of Revealing Light. It went from limited to semi-limited in May as well, and also did absolutely nothing, so again, going to 3 just kind of makes sense. It's kind of too easy to play around in this day and age. Like, obviously it's a trap, so it's pretty slow. You've got to pay a lot of life points, and then everyone is playing a lot of back row removal, particularly to deal with mine, so if you pop up Wall of Revealing Light instead, I'm just going to pop that too. So it's kind of like, I'm not really too bothered. So there's a lot of monster effects and things as well that can pop back around Nightmare Griffin and that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't think Wall of Revealing Light is really, I think it's a little bit too old to see too much play now, unfortunately. So what's missing off this list? Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine is missing off this list. That card is stupid and it should be banned. I've heard people correlating Mystic Mine to being the TCG's Max C, because obviously it's banned in the OCG, whereas we have Max C banned, but OCG has it. Yeah, even if that is the case, I just don't want mine. I would much rather have Max C, to be honest. It's a lot more fun to play with. Mine is just a stupid, you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh card, and we've seen Konami trying to cut down on those in the past. There's a reason why Vanity's Emptiness and Royal Oppression are still banned. But mine, for some reason, is just escaping the ban hammer. So keep those back row removal cards in your deck and in your side deck, because we're gearing up for another format of Mystic Mine. The only other thing that I kind of would have expected to see on this list was more indirect hits to Tearlament. Obviously they lost Fairy Tale Snow, but that's not really a huge thing for their core strategy, at least. I would have expected maybe like a Curious ban if they really wanted to go hard on them. That would really have affected Tearlament a lot. So I'm thinking something like that, because they are going to get the support from Magnificent Mavens in November. I think there's even some more support for them in Darkling Blast and further beyond in the core set packs as well. So it would have just taken them down a peg, especially with Sprite coming down a peg, losing RONINTOADIN. Just to try and even up that playing field a bit. As it is, with Snow gone, I think Tear is still definitely the clear strongest deck for this format. And that's it. That is my totally unqualified opinion / review of the ban list. Overall, I think it's a very weird ban list. I'm excited to see so many cards coming back. I'm kind of sad that Hulk is going because it does kind of hit some of those rogue decks a little bit, which is kind of unfortunate for those players. But overall, it is a ban list. It is the most ban list that you will ban list in this ban list. So we've been waiting a long time for it. I think probably for me it's a little bit of a letdown. It's a weird list, but it's a list at least. So we will take it. We at least now know what we're playing with going into the new World Championship qualifier season. So hopefully this has been at all helpful or interesting or something for you. It's, as I say, something different for me to make. Definitely stretching my mind a little bit in terms of the competitive Yu-Gi-Oh scene. Please make sure to like and subscribe. We will be back to doing more openings as our regular content from next week. But in the meantime, I will see you in the next video.